Buddy. Good. So, first I'd just like to comment on what a good job I think our players have done with practice so far. We going 7 days in a row after tomorrow. Then players will get 3 days off for Christmas. But the attitude has been good. The intensity has been good. Obviously, this has been a real opportunity for some of the younger guys to get a lot of reps with some of the defections that we've had. And I think it's really, really good. I like, the attitude of the team, and, I'm encouraged by, what we've been able to accomplish and what we've been able to do. Obviously, today was signing day, and we're obviously very pleased with the class we were able to attract. Got a good, bunch of players, but I think what I like about this group the most is it seems like they have really good character. We still sort of, try to get guys to buy into developing, creating value for their future based on, getting an education, being a good person, being the best football player they could be. I feel like, the kind of guys that we were able to attract are, the right kind of guys. And, we're excited about the class. I think the coaching staff did a fantastic job. This is a long-term process. Guys really worked hard at this, not only in the evaluation process, but also in the recruiting process. And, the university community really helps us in a lot of ways, helps us have very positive official visits from Dr. Bell to Greg Byrne to the university community, the professors who help us in recruiting to, our entire recruiting staff and everybody involved in our organization. So relationships are really important to have a lot of good people in the organization that are, going to be in position to help guys, sort of develop responsibility for their own self-determination by being accountable personally, academically, and athletically, and having the right kind of folks to do that, I think, is something that really helps us in recruiting. So, I'd like to also reiterate that I think this is the last time I'll get to talk to you before, the Christmas holidays. Wish everybody a happy holiday out there. I'd also like to encourage, folks to, support our team in the Sugar Bowl. This team has worked hard. I know we lost a couple games on the last play of the game, but I think these guys have worked hard all year, and positive energy is always important to, continuing to have a successful program. So we'd appreciate your support when it comes to, our team being in New Orleans.
Start from Chase.
On the signing class, did you find that NIL had about the same impact on this recruiting cycle as it did the last recruiting cycle, or is NIL just something that ever evolves and is always changing its stripes?
We're not allowed to be involved in NLI, at least from my perspective. And, I do think that it did have an impact on recruiting with some players. And I don't know how you make comments about things that really is kind of a crazy, a little bit of a crazy situation right now, and there's not really a sensible response to it. So I don't know how to really respond to it other than the fact that, we do a great job of trying to sell what we can do to create value for players and what they can create for themselves here, because our players have done a really good job of creating value for themselves in name, image, and likeness by what they do after they get here.
Go to Aaron. Settles in the middle.
With some of the changes we've seen in college football, particularly the COVID rules that you've had to deal with the last few years, what was it like being in homes as much as you liked, and how did that, if at all, impact the evaluation process?
Well, I think really what it helps is it really helps relationships. You get to know the parents better, you get to know the families better, you get to know people better. One of the things that always strikes me, and this is one thing that you couldn't do during COVID, so I guess one day that class will come up, but every time I take pictures with the guys that graduate, when they walk up to me and I shake hands with them and congratulate them, the first thing that comes to my mind is their home visit. When I was in their home, whether we had fried chicken, or whatever the situation was, that's the first thing I remember. And that's because you develop relationships with the family and the parents. You're in their home. Their hospitality is really, really appreciated. We've got some great parents, and obviously we want to have great relationships with them. So I think it has a huge impact for me in terms of getting to know them, and I think it has a good impact on them in terms of they get to evaluate and get to know us a little better.
Stay on that side with Michael.
You two quarterbacks in this class. Can you tell us what each one of them brings to the program?
Well, we're obviously happy with both guys. They've both been in successful programs. We know a lot about them. They're great people. I think they have really good potential. I think with this day and age, you really, want to make sure when, basically guys can leave your team whenever they want, that you have enough guys at each position, and that they want to be the kind of guys that want to develop, at that position. So, and I think both of these guys are very much committed to that. So, I mean, other than that, they're the kind of guys that we want, and I think they fit the profile of what we need at the position.
Back on the right with Charlie.
And a guy like Caleb Downs, I know there's a lot to like about his game, but what stands out the most to you about him as a player?
Well, first of all, he's a great person, really smart football player. Football means a lot to him. And the guy's a great competitor, loves to compete. Their team won the state championship. He was all into that, could have gone anywhere he wanted to go and wanted to stay with the team that he played with the whole time. And they won the state championship in Georgia, which is, a significant accomplishment. And I just think he's the right kind of person. He's got leadership qualities that, are hard to come by. And the guy's really got a lot of talent physically to be able to develop into something special, and we're really looking forward to working with them.
Back on the left, Mike Rodak.
Charles Kelly was involved with a lot of the players in this class. Just what did you see from him during his time here, and overall, what have you seen from this staff this time of year when they're being pulled in different directions between recruiting and the bowl game and maybe jobs elsewhere?
Well, I think our entire staff did a really, really good job. I really appreciate Dion and Charles Kelly both in terms of trying to finish the right way. I went through that experience when I left the Cleveland Browns to go to Michigan State as a head coach, and we had 4, 5, 6 games left, and I felt I owed it to the players, to Coach Belichick and the Cleveland Browns organization to do the best job I could and stay focused on that. And Charles has done a really good job of that. But I was really encouraged by the energy, the enthusiasm, the relationships that the entire staff was able to sort of develop with this recruiting class. And I think that's important in the future, because I think having good relationships is one of the things that will be critical in terms of how you manage a roster in the future. And I think when you have good relationships, when guys come in, that's something you can build on.
In the middle here with Mason.
I know it takes a lot to build a league program year in and year out. Where does the recruiting process from, first scouting a player to when they eventually commit, what do you enjoy most about that process?
I like it all. I watch every player that we recruit. I make an evaluation. We come to an evaluation and agreement as a staff. And then I love the relationship building process. I love when guys visit here and you get to visit with them and develop relationships with them, see what's important to them in recruiting, and also the recruiting process when you go out on the road, meet their high school coaches and their families, and when their families come here and visit. So there's nothing about the recruiting process that I don't really enjoy. I enjoy it all.
Back on the left, Aaron.
You talked about Caleb and what he brings character-wise and as a player, but the other defensive backs you brought in this class, did you feel like you met needs there?
Well, yeah, I think so. There's 4 DBs there. A couple guys I think will try at corner. I think all the guys are capable of playing safety or star. I think corner is one of the most difficult positions to find, and that's still something that we're going to continue to look for.
Come back over here with Charlie. Any more follow-ups?
In the last 10 days or so, you guys were able to add some elite guys up front with Keeley and now today with Smith and Rousseau. Just what do you like about those guys and the defensive front as a whole? Where do you think you kind of added with that group?
Well, I think one of the things that was a real focus for us is to, improve up front. And I think we recruited some guys that can certainly help us do that. I don't like to single out players, create expectations for them or anything like that. I think the media does a really good job of that. That's something that, we really try to get the guys not to sort of focus on the expectations, but actually focus on what they have to do to, create value for their future and develop as players. And that's what we're going to focus on with these guys. But I do think those guys that we were able to recruit, and you mentioned a few of them there, are certainly going to be guys that can help us in the front seven in the very near future.
Okay, unless we have another follow-up, we'll finish up with Mason.
Of course, some of the 23 classes are already helping with early enrollees and such, but when players come to campus for the first time, what are some of the things you want to instill in them program-wise first, whether it's on the football field or off the football field?
Well, I think the most important thing, here with these guys at this time, because there is no school, the thing that we want to focus on in January is, hey, how can we help you transition as a person? How can we help you transition academically? And how can we help you transition and develop as a football player? Well, right now, we're just having bowl practice. And these guys are all here. We have 10 guys that are here practicing with us. And I think the one thing that we're trying to get them to understand is what can they learn systematically, but number two, just get the feeling of what it's like and how to go through practice and what we do in practice. So because there is no school, there aren't very many people here. They'll develop some relationships with players on the team, which I think is a good thing. But I think this whole experience is really good for them in terms of what their expectation will be in January when school starts. I think that's probably the greatest benefit to it, and the relationships and the comfort zone that they can create by being around, our team and our players.
All right, Coach, that's all we got. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you.